Every week on Let's Talk About Mental Health, I like to bring you the hard-hitting stories about mental health and well-being. And this week is no different because I'm looking at everything that the Spice Girls taught us about mental health and well-being. Seriously. If you're not into the Spice Girls, then maybe you should stop right now. Thank you very much. Otherwise, here comes the intro and then let's talk. For anyone who has ever listened to my podcast or even watched some of my videos on this channel, it will come as no surprise to hear that I am slightly obsessed with the Spice Girls. And by slightly, I mean completely and utterly. Baby, ginger, posh, scary and sporty. Together, these 5 British women dominated the second half of the 1990s and left an enormous legacy on the pop music landscape. What does that have to do with mental health? Well, I'm always looking for opportunities to indulge my Spice Girls obsession, and I decided that this week I'll share a few things about mental health that we can take from the brief yet enduring reign of those Spice Girls. So let's start with number 1, say what you want. What you really, really want. I still to this day have no idea what the hell a Zig-a-Zig is, but whatever it is, I know that the Spice Girls really, really wanted it. Wannabe stood out when it was first released because it was catchy as hell and it's pure Spice Girls. Loud, fun, and full of girl power. They were unpolished, they were loud, they were brash, they were in your face. And do you know why they became popular so quickly? Because they were unpolished, they were loud, they were brash, and they were in your face. I mean, Jerry Halliwell patted the future King of England on the backside, so, I think it's fair to say they were pretty good at saying and doing what they really, really wanted. So what's the lesson for mental health? Well, sometimes we spend so long beating around the bush that we make things far more complicated than they need to be. If you want something or you want to do something, then you have to get in and ask for it or just do it. And if you really, really want something, then that means that you really, really have to ask for it. You may not always get what you want, but it's better to try and miss out than it is to spend the rest of your life wondering what might have been. The second thing the Spice Girls taught us about mental health is you don't need money to make a massive impact. In February 1997, the Spice Girls performed at the Brit Awards and Jerry wore that Union Jack dress, which became so famous that it sold at auction for £36,000 back in 1998, and it even has its own entry on Wikipedia. No, I am not kidding. So let me start by saying that I'll acknowledge the fact that the black dress underneath it was a Gucci dress, which is hardly low cost. But let's be honest, that could have been any black dress because all anybody remembers of it is the Union Jack bit. And guess what? It was a tea towel that Jerry had her sister sew on top of the dress. A tea towel. Which just goes to show you that even though something might cost just a few dollars or pounds, in the right hands, it can make the entire world stand up and pay attention. So what does that have to teach us about mental health? It's this. We worry so much about having the right car or the right labels or our clothes or whatever, but none of that matters. The people who make the biggest impact in life do so because of their talent and their personality, not because of the labels that they're wearing. The third thing the Spice Girls taught us about mental health is there will always be people who don't like you. That's just part of life. You know what? Keep going anyway. If you're old enough to remember when the Spice Girls were massive in the sort of mid to late 90s, then you'll remember that they were everywhere really quickly. Of course, now, when you're everywhere, it doesn't take long for people to start criticizing, and the Spice Girls were hated by a lot of people. The point is that you can be, to quote Dita Von Teese, the ripest, juiciest peach in the world, and there will still be people who hate peaches. So the lesson for mental health is to focus on the people who like you and support you, and to hell with what other people think about you. You're never going to please all of the people all of the time, so don't waste your energy. Instead, give 100% of your effort and attention to the people who like you for who you are, and for what you do. Number 4 is fun really is a valuable commodity. The Spice Girls were ridiculous. Spice World, the movie, was utterly ridiculous. Still is. And you know what? It's perfection. Anyway, what's the point of all of this for mental health? It's to have fun. As much fun as you can possibly have. When you're being authentic and you're being true to yourself, that shines through and it appeals to other people, which makes your relationships and interactions with others way more positive. I mean, we all know by now that it was tough for the Spice Girls behind the scenes, and I'm not trying to disregard any of that, but what we saw on the surface at least was a lot of fun and creativity and joy, which inspired countless others to be fun and creative. Find what's fun for you and do as much of it as possible. That's why I love this work that I do. Like, I love talking about this stuff. For me, this is fun. Do what brings you joy. Number 5. It's possible to leave a really big impression in just a short time. You know, it was only 3.5 years in total from the release of Wannabe to the band taking an indefinite hiatus. It was less than 2 years total as a 5-piece. And yes, I am still traumatized by Ginger's exit in May 1998. In spite of all of that, we're still talking about them now. It's been more than 2 decades, and they are still the best-selling girl group of all time. The point is that with just 2 albums as a 5-piece, and then 1 after Jerry left, they are still incredibly popular more than 2 decades later. So remember that it doesn't necessarily take a lot to leave a lasting impression on other people. And then because I love bonus lessons, I'm going to give you a very special one that the Spice Girls taught me personally, and it is follow your instincts. So I'm going to tell you a personal story about the Spice Girls here. When their reunion tour in 2007, The Return of the Spice Girls, was announced, Australia was actually on the list of countries that they were due to cover. And the tickets were in demand, and so there was a worldwide lottery system that was set up. I entered the lottery for the Australian shows, but something told me to enter the London lottery as well. Now, I was lucky enough when the lottery was first allocated, I was lucky enough to be selected to be able to buy tickets for the London shows. Like, they actually sold out that fast that people were missing out on tickets. At that point, I had to decide whether I was going to buy the London tickets or if I was going to hold out for the Australian shows. But again, something kept on telling me to buy the London shows regardless. I mean, we're talking about on the other side of the world, and I had work commitments. I did, and guess what happened? The whole Australian tour was cancelled. So I spent a stupid amount of money flying myself and my partner from Australia to London just so that we could go and see the Spice Girls in concert. And do you know what? All I remember is how fantastic it was and how grateful I am that I had that experience. So focus on creating as many memorable experiences as you possibly can. Maybe don't spend a shitload of money to go fly halfway around the world to see the Spice Girls, but you know, hopefully you get my message. The thing is, if you create as many memorable experiences as you can, I guarantee you will look back on them years later and still find joy in them. You might even find yourself talking about them to random strangers on YouTube 13 years later. To close, if you want to be able to spice up your life, then move over and don't stop until 2 become 1. Because if you holler and say you'll be there, then you'll see in the headlines that friendship never ends. Some people might think you're too much and ask, who do you think you are? But I know you should never give up on the good times. And when it comes to the Spice Girls, there's only one thing left to say. Viva forever. Oh, and girl power. Thank you for watching this ridiculous excuse to tie my love of the Spice Girls into the whole mental health thing. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too random. There are some actual genuine lessons in there somewhere. So here's the story from A to Z. You want to get with me, you got to listen carefully. We got M in the place who likes it in your face. You got G like MC who likes it. What do you mean I'm still recording? Yeah. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and look after yourself, and hopefully I'll talk to you next time. For more great content, subscribe to the channel by clicking the logo here. And check out this video that you might like. Catch the weekly podcast every Sunday, and find even more content at letstalkaboutmentalhealth.com.au, along with exclusive daily stuff on social media. Thanks for watching, and talk to you next time.